welcome back to my channel. You're watching What Helen Reads and I'm Helen, and today I've got another book haul for you. So today I'm going to share some books with you that I've recently purchased, at least all the books that I've collected since my last book haul earlier in the year. I think it was around July time that I did the last one. I've got some physical books here, but I also got some ebooks that I actually purchased. And so I wanted to include those as well because I don't often purchase ebooks. Because I subscribe to Kindle Unlimited and Audible, the majority of the books I read or listen to are usually part of my subscription. So I don't often buy ebooks. And so when I come across one that I absolutely feel that I need to have, isn't in the Kindle Unlimited store, and I end up purchasing it, I want to include those in my book hauls for you as well. So let's get started with 3 books that I actually was sent by the author. And the first one is The Nephilim's Fate by Eliza Hampstead. Now this is actually a new cover, so she's recently had these recovered. I had the original cover here that Eliza Hampstead had sent to me previously, and she did the first and second book in these sort of covers, and then she decided to go in a new direction and had some the books basically recovered. So we've got The Nephilim's Fate, which is the first book, and this is book 1 in the War of the Nephilim series. We have The Nephilim's Fear, which is book 2 in the series, and then the recent release that came out just last month is The Nephilim's Finess, also by Eliza Hampstead. So I absolutely love these. I love the new covers that she's had done on these, and I was very, very grateful to have her send these to me. So Eliza Hampstead is actually a relatively new author. She's only written these 3 books, and I was fortunate enough to read the first book, and since then I've been a beta reader for her, and you know, get early copies of the book and give her feedback on them before she goes to the final kind of drafts and everything. So I've been really enjoying doing that for an author, because it's been really nice to be able to read something that isn't quite finished, provide feedback, see how it changes, and I feel like I'm actually helping her to, you know, make the books better, even if she only takes on board a few of my comments, and then it feels nice to be able to do that. And so as a thank you for beta reading, she sent me these books. Now, what is this all about? So as the name suggests, The Nephilim's Fear, this is a paranormal romance. It's set in a world where there are Nephilim, so they're half angel, half humans, and they kind of are the protectors of humanity. And in this world we also have witches, warlocks, we have vampires, we have demons, we have fae creatures as well. So basically the main character in this one, Alicia, is a witch, and then we have Nate, who is a Nephilim, and there is a prophecy that say witches and Nephilim can't be together, because if they even kiss each other, then they will both die and they can't be together. But Alicia has been dreaming about Nate for many, many years. She feels like she knows him, and then one day she happens to be in a pub and she bumps into him, and they both recognise each other as the person that they've kind of been dreaming about, have been waiting for. Of course they realise that they can't be together, but they feel like maybe the prophecy isn't correct, and they start to look for a way to ensure that they can be together. So that's book 1. Then we had The Nephilim's Fear, and this is based on a human male and a Nephilim female. Azariel is the Nephilim in this one, and she is very attracted to Andrew, who is a human, and he's kind of connected to this world because he's the brother of another character that we saw in book 1. It's kind of a side character, but he's the brother, and Azariel and Andrew kind of start this relationship together, but he is then kidnapped by vampires. He kind of gets trapped in the middle of this sort of war that's going on, and Azariel has to go and save him. It ends on quite a big cliffhanger because weaving through this story is kind of a plot basically where the vampires are trying to eliminate the Nephilim, and so we kind of like find out a bit more about what's going on. And at the end of this book, the leader of the vampire clan is captured by the Nephilim, and that's when we move into book 3, which is the Nephilim's Finess. And this is Victoria, who is the head of the vampires. She is now captured and being held by the Nephilim, and basically the head of the Nephilim, who is Raph, he is now trying to interrogate her and get information out of her, so that he can defeat the vampires and end the war. So there's one more book coming, which I'm really looking forward to. That'll be out early next year, and I'm hoping to beta read for that one as well. So I'll keep you updated on that. Then I picked up Liars Like Us by JT Geissinger, and this is book 1 in the Morally Grey series. It is very loosely connected in the same universe as the Queens and Monsters series, and in this one we are following Callum McCord, who's our hero, and Emery. Now basically Emery is a bookstore owner. There is a big bookstore that's just opened next door, and it's essentially putting her out of business, so she's pretty much going bankrupt and she can no longer afford to keep her staff. So she takes them all out for dinner to kind of like say kind of a kind of final goodbye, and to let them down gently and to say, sorry, I'm going to have to let you go. And in the restaurant is Callum. He overhears this conversation and he decides that he's going to do Emery a deal. Now Callum is a billionaire, and basically he goes to Emery and asks her to marry him. In exchange, he's going to give her $10 million so that she can save her business and save her you know, employees, so she doesn't have to fire them, and he claims he needs to marry her so that he will get his inheritance from his father, and so they kind of enter into this kind of arranged marriage. Now of course everything is not as it seems. Callum is knows exactly who she is. He has absolutely set all of this up, but as we go through we find out more about what's going on and what's happened. I really enjoyed this one the first time I read it, but I was a bit disappointed, I have to say, by the ending. However, I went on to listen to the audiobook, which is narrated by Troy Duran, or at least he does Callum's voice, and on the second reading, listening to it on audiobook, I enjoyed it even more, and because I already knew how it ended, I was less disappointed, and therefore ended up basically falling in love with this one and giving it 5 stars. As a result, then I went on to read Fall Into You, and I also bought this one when it came out. This is book 2 in the Morally Grey series, and this one focuses on Callum's brother Cole, and he basically is a CFO of the company, and one night he has bumps into a woman called Shay. They have a one-night stand, but unbeknownst to them, she is actually now going to start a new job, and she ends up being Cole's personal assistant, and he kind of thinks he's been tricked because of the one-night stand, and he also has a policy where he obviously can't fraternise with employees, and so it kind of puts their newfound relationship on a bit of hold, and although he's determined that he's not going to take their relationship any further, of course they're now in close proximity together in the office, and he is not going to be able to stay away from her, so their relationship goes from there. But this is a morally grey book, a bit like his brother. He's got some secrets that he's hiding, and he strongly battles with himself about whether it's even right that he should be in a relationship with another person. But of course their love for each other is very, very strong. They're very, very attracted to each other, and they're not going to be able to stay away. So I've just fallen in love with JT Geissinger's writing overall, and so I had to pick up this book when it came out. Then I decided as well I was going to treat myself to 3 books by Marlowe Roy. And Marlowe Roy is also another new-ish author. She has only got 3 books coming out. She's just about to bring out a novella for Christmas, and I think she's working on another one in this series. And she writes a Megaverse, but they are exceptionally good. I absolutely love her writing. Her writing is fantastic, and when I first read the first book in this Omegaverse series, it was probably one of my favourite Omegaverse that I've read, and the first one in the series is called The Alpha's Salvation. Now, one of the reasons I treated myself to these books is because I absolutely love the covers of these books. I think they are brilliant, and I love the fact that they're sort of clinch covers with both the male and female characters on the front here. So basically this is book 1 of the After End series, and kind of what's happened in this world is that there's been some sort of apocalypse. The world as we know it is over, and out of the ashes humans are kind of transformed, and there are alphas, omegas and betas in this new world. But not only that, some of the humans that were human before this happened become sort of like the old ones, who become very long-lived, and the hero in this one, Hunter, is one such human. So before the apocalypse happened, sort of before the end happened, he was a doctor, and then after the end, the infrastructure, technology, everything fell apart completely. They lost everything, and he is now the alpha of alphas, leading this alpha pack, this community, and trying to keep everybody safe in the aftermath of kind of what's happened. Now, omegas, with all Omegaverse, omegas are, highly sought after. People fight over them, but Hunter is very, very protective of the omegas. He won't allow any of the alphas to force themselves on the omegas. He completely protects them. But he has been alone for very, very many years, and he's starting to get very tired of life and starting to think about maybe it's time to try and end his life. And this happens to coincide with when he finally meets his fated mate, basically his omega, Kess, and then as soon as obviously he meets her, wants to be with her, and then realises that he absolutely does want to continue to live, and they go from there. Now, once he meets Kess, he takes her back to his kind of camp, if you like, and then we move on to book 2 in the series, which is this one, and this is the Alpha's Seduction. And in this one we have a human again, who is from the old world. She doesn't believe she's an omega. She's never presented as an omega, but she is one of the older humans, so she is still very long lived, and she has never found a mate or anything like that until a mysterious new alpha comes into town, and he kind of very much sets his sights on her. So the heroine in this one is called Della, and the hero is called Cal. Now, Cal instantly recognises her as his sort of fated mate, as his omega, but she has never presented as omega, so she doesn't believe she is one, and she doesn't understand how he can be her mate. But of course, being in close proximity with him kind of brings on her omeganess, if you like, so she goes into her first heat, and as a result, Cal actually takes her from the camp and kind of hides her, and he hides with her in a cave. And as a result, Hunter is very, very angry about this, because he's got a rule about you can't take omegas, and so he assumes that Cal has done this just because he's being selfish, basically, and he wants Stella for himself, but actually he's done it to keep her safe, because there's something going on in camp. He knows that basically potentially she's in danger, and he wants to keep her safe. But ultimately, when they're mated and Della realises what's going on, she forces Cal to take her back to camp so they can warn the others about the danger that's posed. But when he takes her back to camp, Hunter is not too happy, and Cal kind of has to face up to some consequences. So that's book 2, and then book 3, which I absolutely love, rated this one 5 stars. It's one of my 5-star reads of the year. The Alpha's Resurrection. This again is about a human from before. He used to be very, very good friends with Hunter, but he had a very, very traumatic start to the new world, and as a result he kind of goes a little bit mad, and in fact he attacks the heroine from book 1, Kess, and so Hunter is kind of very much kept him at arm's length. So he is still living in the camp with them, but he's not allowed to go anywhere near an Omega, and he's very much being kind of punished. He's got a lot to make up for, essentially. But when he sees Zora in the camp, he realises she's his fated mate. Now he knows he can't go anywhere near her, otherwise Hunter is going to kick him out of camp, but as time goes on they spend more time together, in secret I might add, so it adds to the excitement and the drama, and you're constantly worried they're going to get caught, but ultimately they you know, get together. The thing is, Zora is only in camp temporarily. She actually belongs to another kind of like alpha camp, and she's actually supposed to be getting married to somebody else from her own village. She doesn't want to marry him though, and so she's kind of gone to Hunter's community, supposedly just for the summer, to help with some children because she's a nanny, and she's secretly hoping that she's going to find an alpha so she doesn't have to go back and marry this other guy because she doesn't want to. And so it's kind of a little bit of a taboo romance as well. So not only is Jake, the hero in this one, not supposed to be anywhere near her, she is also spoken for, so they can't be together either for that reason. So it causes quite a lot of issues when they find out that they are in fact together, but ultimately it works out in the end, so don't worry. So the next one I have is Vicious Hearts by Jagger Cole. This one was actually sent to me by Jen from the Book Refuge. I subscribe on one of her Patreons, and I subscribed to a quarterly book box, and this was in one of the book boxes that I got earlier in the year. This is book 2 in the Dark Hearts series by Jagger Cole, and in this one we are following Killian, who is head of the Irish Mafia. He is Neve's uncle, so Neve was the heroine from book 1, and then the heroine in this one is Una. Now she's actually an assassin, and she's been sent to kill Killian, and she chooses to do this by going into a sex club that he frequents. She ends up being his partner for the evening, and as they're about to do the deed, she attempts to stab him. In fact, she does stab him, and she leaves him for dead. The thing is, he isn't dead, and when he finally recovers from his injury, he is absolutely livid, and he makes it his mission to track Una down and make her pay. And the thing is, he might be more attracted to her than he realised, and they kind of end up starting a relationship together instead. So very interesting one, this one. Really, really enjoyed it. And as always, Jagger Cole's heroes are completely over the top, so I loved Killian in this one. Then another book that I've got, which literally just arrived yesterday, is another book from Jen from the Book Refuge, Minx by Sophie, Lark. This was in the quarterly book box that I got literally, like I say, yesterday it arrived, so it was the one that she dispatched out in November. So in this one we are following Ramses, and he is a self-made man. He's a billionaire, and he deals in stocks and shares and things like that. And then the heroine in this one is Blake. Now she is a sex worker, but she's a high-end sort of escort, if you like. She usually only has 1 or 2 men at a time, and she commands very, very high prices, but she will basically become the person that the man wants. So she's very, very adept at seduction, figuring out what men want, and absolutely playing into that. Now, because she's high end, obviously she goes out with very, very wealthy clients, and as a result she overhears lots of insider information about stocks and shares, and she's actually using this to her advantage. So she's using her sexual wiles, if you like, to figure out information. So she is also making a lot of money on the stock markets and with investments, and she's got a figure in her head that she wants to hit, and then she's out of the game, and then she's golden, and she very much plans on living her life very much by herself, but with plenty of money behind her. Now the thing is, she catches the eye of Ramses. He's seen her around and he is very, very interested. He decides he's going to buy her, and at first she tries to resist and says, no, I'm not up for sale, but he knows that every person has their price, and eventually he makes sure that he becomes one of her clients. Very quickly though, their relationship grows into more, and they kind of have to navigate their way through this kind of relationship and how they're going to end up together. I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and yeah, it was a fun, sexy time. Then the next two are annotated books that I got from, again, Jen from the Book Refuge. She does an annotated book tier where you can have an annotated book every month, but there is only one international slot, which is taken, which will never be available. However, she started to do an a la carte option every now and then, where she'll have some books that she's annotated ready to go, and you can basically buy them from her annotated. Now the first batch of a la carte annotated books that she did included this one here, which was Ruthless Creatures. Now I do have an alternative cover copy of this book already, but I absolutely wanted this one. One, because it's the alternative cover, two, Jen has annotated it throughout, and it's also one of my favourite mafia romances of all time. I absolutely love Cage, who's the hero in this one, and Natalie, who is the heroine. So I really, really wanted this one, and as a bonus, it, as always, it's also been signed by JT Geissinger. So I kind of, as soon as this one became available, I snapped it up and was so excited to get it. Now this one is, like I say, we're following Cage, who's our hero, and Natalie, the heroine. This is book one in the Queens and Monsters series. It's what kicks off the rest of the series. Is absolutely fantastic. So in this one we have Natalie. She's the heroine, like I say, and she was engaged to be married to a man, and the day before their wedding he disappears, and they don't know what's happened to him, and they never find a body, but everyone presumes that he's dead. And Natalie is in a great state of mourning. She finds it very, very difficult to move on. She's still grieving quite heavily, and at the start of this book, 5 years has passed, and in the state where she lives, after 5 years, when someone is missing, they're presumed dead, even if they never find a body. So now she is confronting the fact that her fiance is never coming back, and that he is clearly dead. So this book starts where it's the anniversary of his death, basically 5 years on, and she is devastated. At the same time, this mysterious man turns up, Cage. He starts showing up around town, and eventually she realises that he's her next door neighbour. They have a couple of like little meetings where he brings a package around to her house. They meet in a pub and have a bit of banter between them, and she also goes out for a meal, and he happens to be in the same restaurant. So there's a couple of coincidental sightings of this of Cage, and eventually they start a relationship together. The thing is, Cage is a member of the Russian mafia, and he is not supposed to fall in love with a woman, and he needs to keep their relationship secret because there's stuff that's going on, stuff that's happened, and he may or may not be related to the fiance that's gone missing. But what I absolutely love about this one is the spice is off the charts. There's some fantastic scenes in here. Cage is such a great character, I think, such a great Russian hero. He's everything you want. He's very, very dark, brooding, in control, very obsessive and possessive over his woman, will do anything for Natalie, and he treats her like an absolute queen. So I absolutely love this one, and I love the little mystery that is in it as well, and kind of how it kind of resolves and how we get to the end, and also how then we kind of left with a cliffhanger into the next book in the series, which is for Sloane and for Declan. So yeah, if you haven't read this yet, I would highly recommend it. It's absolutely fantastic. And then another one that is an a la carte annotated book from Jen from the Book Refuge is The Takeover by T L Swan. Now, I have never read this book, but this is one of Jen's all-time favourite books, and I really want to read it. And when it became available as an annotated copy, I thought it was an ideal opportunity to get my hands on the book, and as I read it, I can basically read her thoughts and comments as well as we go through, and I feel like I'm reading it alongside her as well. So I haven't pick this one up yet, but I will soon, and I'll let you know how I get on. Right, so they're all the physical books that I picked up since I last did a haul. And then I just wanted to mention some of the ebooks that I also bought. So the first one I bought was How the Hitman Stole Christmas by Sam Mariano. I recently bought this because I wanted to read it to see if it was any good, so I could recommend it for my you know, Christmas sort of festive favourite romance video. This one was super cute. Basically, we have a hitman who's just finished his last job and he's on his way home for Christmas, and he comes across a heroine who is broken down on the side of the road because she's got a flat tyre, and he pulls up with the intention of helping her with her flat tyre, but ends up deciding that he's going to kidnap her and take her home for Christmas to meet his family, and their relationship goes from there. I thoroughly enjoyed that one, and would highly recommend. Then I downloaded 3, which is part of a trilogy. There's 5 books in the series in total, but the first 3 are basically all part of one story, and that was The Initiation, The Obsession, and The Deception by Nikki Sloane. So I really wanted to read a book by Nikki Sloane. I was very intrigued by what The Initiation was all about. I recently reviewed this one in my November reading wrap up, so if you want to know my full thoughts on that, go and check that video out. But I was absolutely blown away by this one. I was completely sucked in. I was completely obsessed with reading it. Had to literally like I binged read them in just a couple of days, and I was shocked by what I was reading. Half the time I was thinking, what am I actually reading? I can't quite believe what I'm reading, and it was a really interesting yeah, just a really interesting story overall. So if you like a dark romance that where there's lots of mind games going on, you kind of don't know who's telling the truth or what's really happening, and you're, you know, trying to figure out how it's all going to end, then I would definitely recommend it if you haven't read them before. Then I picked up Silent Lies by Neva Altaj, mainly because I love the Perfectly Imperfect series, and when they are first released, Neva Altaj doesn't let them go into Kindle Unlimited straight away, so you have to purchase them if you want to read them. It does, the books do eventually go into Kindle Unlimited, but you have to wait, and I'm very impatient and I didn't want to wait because I've been loving the series so much, so I ended up buying that one. So that's her newest release in the Perfectly Imperfect series. I also picked up Games with the Orc by Kathryn Moon, and I picked this one up specifically for the Monster Romance Readathon that happened at the beginning of October. It was like the Monster Mash Readathon, because I needed a book with an orc in it, and I'd heard some good reviews about Games with the Orc, so I picked that one up. And so again, if you want to know my full review on that one, you can go back to my video about the Monster Mash a readathon that I did. 2 by Pam Godwin, Deliver and Vanquish, super dark romances about basically human trafficking, sex trafficking. I absolutely loved it. Deliver and Vanquish were both 5-star reads for me. Thoroughly enjoyed those and would highly recommend. Another Pam Godwin, Sea of Ruin. So Sea of Ruin has been on my TBR for a while. Haven't got around to it yet. I absolutely will at some point, but I specifically picked this one up because I was going to read it for the Romance Readathon that took place earlier this year, because it was a historical romance and would have got me extra points for that. I just didn't get around to it in time, so it's still sitting on my Kindle. I will absolutely get around to reading it, and we'll let you know how I get on when I do, because I think I'm going to love it. And then the last one, again, that I picked up for the romance readathon that happened earlier this year, because it was a historical, and this one had been on my TBR for a while as a historical that I thought I might like, which was The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne. I did in fact like it. It was slightly on the darker side, so I've tried historical romances intermittently. They're not really for me. I personally don't really get on with them. I've enjoyed the odd one that I've read, and The Highwayman I did really enjoy because it was a little bit darker than some of the others. And yeah, so I was glad to pick that one up, and like I say, it did score me extra points in the romance readathon as well. So that's it. That's my book haul, both physical books and ebooks that I've bought since the last haul that I did back in July. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, remember to subscribe to the channel, and I'd love to hear from you, so please don't hesitate to put a comment in the comments box down below. I'm either looking for romance recommendations that you want me to read in 2024, where I'll add them to my TBR jar, see if I can pull them out, or if you've got any favourite reads of the year, then I'd like to know what those are as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Right, am I gonna do a big stack, the biggest stack of books in the world. Right, whew. Whew. Got to the end, the thing is, he isn't dead, and when he is, and then the hero, what is her name? Della. Yeah. At least I'll have a good bit to chop out anyway. Emery, that's it. Emery! Right. I think his name is Andrew. Yeah, Andrew. And yeah. And basically the what's the word? It's basically can't think of the word. What is the word? Prophecy, that's it. Prophecy. Right.